Good morning. My name is Megan Edwards of Focus Communications, and today we're getting the latest update from Kuya Silver, which trades on the Canadian Stock Exchange under the symbol KUYA. Joining me once again is Kuya's President and CEO, David Stein. David, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Megan.
Now, to start things off, for our listeners who are new to the Kuya story, could you give us a brief introduction to the company?
Sure. We've got two flagship projects. We're developing our Bethania silver mine in Peru. Actually, we've made a number of announcements about that in the recent weeks, and had some important financing success on that in December. So that's largely our main project, and we'll be driving a lot of the value this year, going into production. For the very first time, at least as Kuya. It's a past producing mine, but we didn't own it when it was in production before a few years ago. So we're very, very excited. High grade silver production, low cost, and lots of growth potential, both through production expansions and through exploration at Bethania. So that's something we're very, very excited about. We do have our other project in Northern Ontario, which is a huge land package that we're exploring. We just made a discovery there a few months ago, earlier in 2023. So we're really kind of early days on this one in terms of figuring out what's there and what it's going to be worth, to Kuya shareholders. But we're very, very excited. We've just put out some drill results last week, and we have more coming on that project as well. So that's the Silver Kings project.
So late last week, we received some results from your phase 2 drill program at Silver Kings. Could you walk us through some of the results and perhaps the strategy for this phase of drilling?
Sure. Well, I'll answer the second question first. So the strategy, I guess stepping back, we've got this extremely large land package that we've acquired over several different acquisitions over the last 2 and a bit years. And, we've selected these properties because we think they've got potential for, discoveries in the cobalt camp, which has largely been seen as sort of a mined out camp. And certainly, around the town of Cobalt, where most of the mining occurred, you could argue that, there's very little left. But our thesis here is that, buried below some of the cover rocks, where the old timers 120 years ago would not have been looking, is still a great place to go and look for silver. And we indeed made a discovery kind of supporting or proving that thesis earlier in 2023 in this Campbell-Crawford area. So this is the northern section of our property package we call the Kerr project. It's the closest to the town of Cobalt. It's also host itself. This property package itself was host to about 60 million ounces of production, mostly on the south shore of the Kerr Lake right here, where all the red lines are. And we made a new discovery just to the north there. And it was a grassroots discovery. There's no mineralization on surface, or no silver on surface, I should say. And as a result, it was missed. Now, our thesis here is that, there's a diabase that is known to run through the whole property package and beyond, called the Nipissing diabase. It's that orange unit in the cross section here. And where that diabase was eroded away, below it seems to be where the initial discoveries were made, or that indeed was where the initial discoveries were made. The town of Cobalt here and the Kerr Lake area here. Those are the two main production centers, especially in the first 10, 20 years. And of course, there's some in Silver Center as well, down further to the south, which we have in our property package. However, below the diabase, unless there was mineralization above it on surface, very few, if any, companies ever drilled or explored below the diabase. And that's what we're doing now, where we see potential. And so this is now we're talking about our current drill program. This is the Kerr Lake area. This is the Campbell-Crawford property to the north. And You can see it's now getting very messy here with a lot of drill holes. But the reason we're drilling so many drill holes in this area is because we keep discovering new structures. And, keeping in mind that our discovery was buried about 200 meters below barren rock. And below that 200 meters, it seems to be blossoming out into a whole bunch of structures, mineralized, some higher grade than others, but we're seeing, many mineralized structures, veins intersecting with one another, etc. And the more we drill, the more we're seeing this.
So in the release, you mentioned that the company has intersected a cluster of mineralized veins in close proximity to the Angus vein, where you drilled some bonanza grade mineralization last year. Is this style of mineralization similar to some of the historic deposits in the district?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're thinking, and we kind of alluded to this in our press release last week. But if you look at the main production areas in the Cobalt Camp, whether it's the town of Cobalt, Kerr Lake, some of the other areas, what you see is, although there are some, you do get the odd vein, which is sort of, much, much bigger, deeper than goes deeper, is wider than the other veins. When you actually look at the mining as a whole, in terms of the ounces of production, they came from a whole cluster of veins, usually in close proximity, and that might be called one mine if it was on one particular property. But it's actually a whole bunch of veins, like the Kerr Lake mine to the south of us, which was a big producer, produced from dozens of different little veins, some little, some bigger, and with the Carson vein being the biggest one, kind of running more or less east-west. So if we look at, and now I'll draw on this. If we look at the Angus vein, so the Angus vein that we drilled and made our discovery, we're thinking it's kind of going like that, and that's the Angus vein. So it sort of runs east-west, and then the parallel McNamara vein, which we scraped off on surface, is there. And what we're finding as we drill is we're seeing more and more of these cross-cutting structures that go, sort of north-south broadly, like that. There's one there, there's one there, there's one there, there's another one over here. So it's starting to look like exactly like the kind of clusters that we see in the Kerr Lake and the town of Cobalt area, which is great because that's how you make a mine in this camp. Very few, if any, bigger mines were done by, mined only one vein. They mine many veins that are in close proximity, and that's indeed what we're starting to see at the Campbell-Crawford prospect.
And you have 6 drill hole results remaining from this campaign. Can you talk through the target and location for these holes?
Sure. Several of the holes are still in this cluster area, this discovery area. And so what we're kind of looking at here, and I'll just change the color, is, we kind of have now this, this box almost of mineralization, which is still open in all directions, but where we're seeing these veins. And keep in mind that we need to hit the veins below the diabase in order to get the big blowout mineralization. And so not in all cases we hit them in the right spot. We're still kind of learning where these veins are. And then as we do more drilling, we'll be able to, hone in on those, higher grade and sort of bigger zones at depth. But with that, and then we also drilled one other hole over here. And this was meant to drill west into the Air Geode prospect, which is our property just to the west here, where we have a vein at surface that's sort of somewhere around here. It's not on the map, and so we're looking at drilling into that, and we're very excited to see what happens there, because potentially if we have vein mineralization over here, then you're looking at basically tripling the size of the zone, because all this area in between is going to be prospective as well.
Now, to cap things off, could you give us an overview of Silver Kings and what excites you about the potential in this historic mining camp?
Sure. I mean, really, at the end of the day, I see this as a great opportunity for high grade mining, and very similar to what we've been involved in Bethania for many years now. From a mining perspective, the ability to go into production with not spending a lot of capex, you really need to have these high grade kind of systems, and we have that here. So what really excites me is the fact that we made a brand new discovery. We've got kind of a repeatable model that we can go to other parts of our 18,000 hectare land package now and go and potentially find more Angus vein type discoveries. We even have some other prospects that that have been drilled in the past that we're quite hot on. It's just they haven't risen to the priority level of Campbell-Crawford yet. But we've got some other prospects that already have drill results on them that we're very, very excited about. So I could really see this being ultimately multiple mines doing very high grade, small tonnage, high grade, feeding a centralized mill. And I think that's something that can be developed with relatively little capital, and very relatively quickly. And relative is relative to the rest of the mining industry, which is typically very capital intensive and takes a long time to build things. I think in Ontario, where we have a mining friendly kind of area here, in northeastern Ontario, and with the type of high grades that we can get and start mining, this is really kind of the secret to our success here.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today, David, and we look forward to having you back on with additional updates very soon.
Thank you.